there, winos. This is Vince.Wine. Today I am so excited to be jumping into the world of Rioja. I have got two really classic wines from the Rioja region, 2016 Rioja Crianza and a 2007 Gran Reserva. I've really only ever had like low-end, non-classified Rioja, so I'm genuinely excited here to see what Crianza and Gran Reserva have to offer. Let's pop the cork on today's Uncorked. Hey, thanks for joining me. And before we get started today, if you want to be a winocerist, hit subscribe on this channel to become a wino today. I'll put out new videos every single Saturday, so be sure to hit that bell icon to stay notified for more great wine content. Okay, so Rioja is a very complex region with a lot of classifications and rules that you can really go down like this deep rabbit hole in. It's just as complicated as French AOCs and Italian DOCGs. There are like 6 or 7 different wine classifications from DOCA to IGP and I think VCs and IQs and all kinds of different letters, and they all have a different classification for Rioja. On top of that, there are now different municipos, I believe they're called, and they are all these different municipalities. I think there's 145 different municipos that can be labeled on a Rioja label, so it gets a little complicated. On top of that, you can go down to the vineyard, and then there's like really 3 regions in Rioja, and all these little municipos will give you an idea as to which of the top 3 regions the wine is from. And on top of all of this, there's even classifications for the type of Rioja wine, from Reserva and Crianza and Gran Reserva, Gran Añeda, and Joven. I mean, there's just really so much to learn here. So we're just gonna focus on the information as is relevant to the 2 wines we're tasting today. Okay, so let's check out this first one. This is a Rioja from BURGO VIEJO, and I know viejo I believe means old, but this is, let's just take a look at the labels and try to understand what we're looking at here. So at the very top, Rioja, Denominación de Origen Calificada, and that is the DOCA or the DOCA. It's the highest classification actually for a Rioja, so this is a high-end Rioja. Now, next line down you can see is Crianza, which is sort of the lower of the top classification. If it didn't have anything, if it just said Rioja, then it would be non-classified, just sort of your basic table wine. But Crianza actually means you have to have had the wine aged for a minimum of 2 years. So this wine was held in barrel for at least 1 year and possibly in bottle for another year before it was even released to the public. Okay, 2016 being the vintage, then you have your producer name, BURGO VIEJO, product of Spain. The next line just says that it's bottled on the property. And then here's the interesting part. You'll see the Alfaro España. Okay, so Alfaro España, that is that municipo that I was talking about. I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Let me check it out. I want to make sure it's municipo. Oh, municipio. Municipio, it's municipio, not municipal, that I was talking about. That's that one of 145 different municipios that lead you to which region in Rioja it's from. So Alfaro municipio is in the Rioja Oriental or Oriental region. It was formerly Rioja Baja, but it is the most eastern part, which is the reason for the Oriental in that title. Really beautiful capsule on this as well. You've got the crest there from the BURGO VIEJO, and on the top the crest is there as well. Really a pretty wine. And then James Suckling, 92 points. I assure you that was not part of my reason for choosing this wine. Okay, I also really love the information that this bottle provides on the back label. So it was, of course, fermented in stainless steel, but then aged for 12 months in American oak. So I do expect to get a little bit of sort of smokiness out of this and a little bit of dill, perhaps. You can see the varietals there are 90% Tempranillo and 10% Graciano. And Graciano, or likely Graciano, is just a regional specific indigenous grape varietal. I don't have much experience with it. It's supposed to add a lot of aromatics to the wines. Without further ado, let's open the wine. So I really am super excited to taste this because, like I said, I've only ever had like $15 level Rioja before. I don't even think it was Crianza level. I think it was just non-classified at all. So to be honest, Rioja isn't really one of my most favorite wines, but I'm probably gonna get shot for saying that because so many of you winos love this wine. So that leads me to believe I am missing out by not tasting the higher end stuff. So this is actually at the $30 price point. I wanted to spend, I went all out. I wanted to spend a little more on this one so that I can ensure a good quality level wine. Okay, in the glass, let's take a look here. So I love the color on this wine. You can see it's a really beautiful ruby red here, and maybe like a hint of violet around the rim, but it's mostly a pretty red color with really light concentration. I can see my hand pretty clearly. I can even read this cork right through the wine. So that is really a nice looking thing here. And as I turn the glass, not getting maybe a little hint of staining, but not much. And in the way of legs, the viscosity on this wine sort of looks like a maybe medium. So it's interesting. It looks like it wants to be a lighter style wine, but just from my knowledge of Rioja, they're typically pretty full and tannic. So let's just see how that goes. Okay, on the nose. Oh, okay, first things first, it just smells so good. This is an old world wine, and old world wines, which are like Spain and France and Italy, always have this more like rustic and sort of earthiness and almost mustiness that comes out first versus new world wines like California, New Zealand, Australia, South America. Those wines tend to be very fruit forward first. So it's an interesting distinction, and there's a ton of old world on the nose here. Let's get into the specifics. Oh, yeah, so there is kind of a lot going on here. There's a great complexity on this wine, and it's really jumping out of the glass. It's got a pretty loud nose. Okay, one of the first things I'm getting right away is sort of this spiced meat. So it's sort of like a grilled or like even a little bit of aged meatiness on it. And Rioja is known for being spicy and a little smoky. And then with some oak presence, you can tend to get a little bit of vanilla. I usually get sort of this like dusted cocoa, unsweetened milk chocolate type of thing, more on the palate. And then of course some really deep, rich, dark fruit. And yeah, there is a pretty sort of aged fruitiness on this as well. That's really, really nice. But yeah, lots of spice complexity and aged fruitiness and meatiness, really pretty. Let's get the palate. Ooh, there is just the slightest hint of dill on the nose as well, and that certainly speaks to that 12 months on American oak. Okay, interesting. So the wine is actually medium bodied. It's kind of medium to almost medium light. So that coloration and concentration didn't lie to us at all. Where you get the weight is actually on the finish. I get some good tannin structure coming in. So this would certainly be a good food wine. And there's some decent acidity on there as well. So my mouth is still kind of watering a little bit. And that means that this is going to cut through anything really rich that you're eating. Pretty good food wine. The flavor is fine. Not like going, oh man, it's so delicious. It's fine. This is a really well-made wine, and I get a lot of that sort of old world kind of mustiness that I was talking about. A little bit of dry earth on there, and some sort of age condition as well as fresh condition of fruit. Besides that, I'm not getting much period. There's not a lot of, the complexity was all on the nose. It's kind of interesting. It has a touch of a short finish. It kind of falls off for me a little bit. And what I am left with is, yeah, a little bit of that sort of milk chocolate that I am used to seeing, and some fruit and some earth. I'm not getting any spice left over on the palate either. So, okay, I don't know if it's just me, winos. Rioja isn't my thing so far, but let's keep going. Let's open the next bottle and see if it can change my mind. Okay, next up, PUELLES 2007 Gran Reserva. So I just want to take a look at this capsule again really quickly. It does have a really pretty sort of R that's on there. I don't know how well you can see it. It probably needs to be in the light, and you can see that a little bit better. Really nice. Okay, and the label itself, it has the PUELLES name, and here you see it's an 07 Gran Reserva. So Gran Reserva is a designation that actually means this wine had to age for 5 years before being released to the public. So that's 2-year minimum in barrel and 2-year minimum in bottle, with that 5th year being either barrel or bottle. This is 2 steps above the Crianza that I just had. So next level up would be Reserva, which is a minimum of 3 years aging, and then Gran Reserva is a minimum of 5 years. So I'm jumping straight to the top. I really want to be impressed by this wine. Okay, and then you see the DOCA right there, the denominación. So this is again that super high-end classification for Rioja. And then on the side here is where you actually get the Ábalos right there above my thumb. See if we can make that out. Ábalos, España. And that is the municipio for this wine. Okay, and Avalos is in the Rioja Alta region, and that region is characterized by high elevation, as the name Alta suggests. So I'm expecting a pretty different wine here. Now, all Rioja comes from the Tempranillo grape mostly, and so they're all gonna have that sort of like cherry, sort of juiciness to it, and they're all gonna have a little bit of smokiness. You're gonna find those sort of commonalities of spiciness, vanilla smoke, and sort of cherry, and maybe some plumminess on all Riojas, but depending on where they're from, you're gonna get those minor changes that can make a major difference on the flavor of the wine or the certain characteristics you see. For example, how long it's aged can give you a difference in the condition of fruit, how much oak it sees, the classification level can just increase in that quality of maybe mouthfeel, finish. So there's so many variations you can see in Rioja, which is why it's so complicated, but without further ado, let's pop the cork. Okay, so this is a producer that really cares about terruño, or terroir, that sort of sense of place of the land. So we know this is a high-end producer. It's Gran Reserva, the highest level of Rioja, so I have super high expectations for this wine. All right, in the glass, oh my goodness, I can already see that sort of more brown, sort of orangey copper coloration. It had a nice garnety sort of rusty red color, so let's take a look at this in the glass. Okay, it's funny because it looks almost the exact same color as the Crianza, right? But as red wine ages, it actually does get lighter in coloration, and this is a 2007, so there's no way it was this light back then when it was first bottled. So this one does have that ruby red, but you can see along the color starts to peel in, and along the rim it's a little bit more rusty. It's a little bit more sort of what we call browning, or sort of this bricking coloration at the edge, which speaks to its age. As I turn the glass here, I can see legs really start to form along the glass. It's very beautiful, and that does speak to a much richer viscosity. So I'm looking for probably a fuller body here. I'm not getting any coloration staining on the glass, so it's not inky, at which we can also tell by the color. You can see my hand right through it, but it should be much more viscous and full on the palate. Let's find out. Okay, to be honest with you, I am like salivating here. I can actually smell this from right here. The nose is so much bigger, and yeah, look at those gorgeous legs. I'm so in love with this wine. Now, legs are not a quality marker. They just speak to the high residual sugar or high alcohol on the wine, or otherwise the viscosity of the wine. This has 0 residual sugar, I assure you. And the alcohol is pretty medium as well. I want to say it was 14% alcohol on this one. Let's take the nose. Oh my gosh, yeah, this has sort of like a candied condition of fruit. Oh, this is like dried cherries and strawberry. It's like dried cherry, a little dry strawberry in there. Really beautiful red fruit, and a little bit of baking spice underneath that as well. A little bit of clove, touch of cinnamon on there. It kind of reminds me of those like Red Hots candies. Oh, that's so beautiful. There's a little bit of cedar happening in there as well. It almost speaks to like fresh oak. This is already killing me on the nose. I'm really liking this. Let's get it on the palate and hope that it holds up. I'm a little bit floored right now. This is so good. It has evolution. This is a wine that enters the palate with a really sort of silky body because those tannins have just had time to integrate and really mellow out into the wine. And on the palate, it is such a rich delight, and you get a lot of that sort of, again, fresh and dried fruit characteristic. On the finish, man, that's where it really treats you right. It kind of just like, it's like almost like a massage. I mean, it just started to come in really slowly on the finish and bring back all of those flavor descriptors I mentioned on the nose, from cedar to dried and fresh red fruit, and a little bit of cloviness. It's not spicy, it's more like really pretty floral spices like clove and maybe some cinnamon, things like that. Wow, this is actually a very elegant wine. It has finesse. This is a wine that has really become, a wine of elegance and finesse over so many years. They've held it for 5 years aging before even releasing it to the public. So for Gran Reserva, you're probably going to see like 2010s and older, nothing newer than that. But this is really quite a delight. There's so much aromatics happening even on the palate when it's on there. Oh, here comes that rush of flavor. It has less of a meaty thing, interestingly. So it does have a bit of savoriness, which also makes this really tasty. It does have a little bit of sort of like like a cured meat going on with this. I kind of wouldn't want this with a steak. I mean, I'm sure you totally can. Some like beef stews might be nice with this. Mexican food for sure, or Spanish cuisine would be really nice with this. I'm thinking like carnitas, you know, carnitas would be really nice with this. Something kind of saucy with meat in it would be really, really good. Or honestly, I'm kind of just thinking salami and dried cheeses because it already has that sort of aged condition. An aged marbled red meat would be really pretty with this as well. Very much a nice wine. Okay, well there you have it, winos. That was 2016 Rioja Crianza versus a 2007 Rioja Gran Reserva. At the end of the day, I gotta tell you, maybe I'm just a bit of a wine snob. I'm not really feeling young Rioja. It just doesn't do it for me. This 07 was killer, and I know that I skipped a step as well. I didn't try a Reserva, so I would like to try that because it'll give you something in between here, but for sure I want to try more Gran Reserva because that is good stuff. What do you winos recommend as far as Rioja? You're the Rioja lovers out there. I want to try your favorite Rioja. Let me know in the comments and give me a $30 price range. I'll go all out and spend 30 bucks on it, but let me know, and I'd love to taste it. If you enjoyed what you saw here today, please leave me a like. That helps so much. Don't forget to share this video with your wine friends. And until next time, winos, drink safe and drink well. Cheers. Reserva, Gran Reserva, and Crianza.